board's comment that the Modoc Flood Control and Water Conservation District meeting had perhaps been noticed. It hasn't yet been noticed. We've noticed, and I want to make sure that that's understood. We published notice both in the Lassen County Times and the Modoc Record of a public hearing that was anticipated to occur and is still hopefully going to occur on the 19th, related to proposed adoption of the 15-16 budget, but we've not yet posted the agenda for that date. And depending on whether we can get a quorum for that date or not, we'll see how that goes. Well,
we appreciate the report. Do we have any other questions or comments on the board? Do we have comments from the general public? I see Mrs. Spencer has her hand. Yes.
I find.
Would you please come to the podium?
I find Mr. Egan's version of that curious and odd. And according to Mr. Benoit, the quorum for that flood district is 3 from each district, and you might want to take the time to confirm that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Spencer. Is there anyone else who has a comment on this item? If not, Mr. Egan, do you have any additional comments or items for the board?
Happy New Year.
I had one other question for Richard.
Okay.
On this meeting on the 19th, what time is that anticipated at the location?
So notice for 1:30, the public hearing.
So 1:30 at the engineer hall?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that brings us to 10:45. So we have let's take a short recess.
Hey, Dean. You got a moment?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, how are you?
We're going to go back to our time certain D1 item. We have a presentation from the Alliance for Workforce Development, and Terry's going to be making a presentation. But before you do, I'm going to ask Tracy Holt, who's the Executive Director for the agency, maybe do a couple introductions before we get into Terry's presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Tracy Holt, the Executive Director of the Alliance for Workforce Development. Terry Heiser-Haynes will be giving you a brief update on some of the activities that have been happening at the One Stop here in Steubenville over the course of the last 6 months. She'll update you on some of the programs. And would you like me to give you an update now or after hers about the WIB appointments?
Why don't you go ahead and just do it
Sure.
now?
Mr. Chapman and I met a few weeks ago when we were talking about the Workforce Development Board appointments here for Lassen County. And he is correct in saying that we have new federal legislation on top of state legislation that is really changing the way we do business. We are in the first 6 months of implementing the new Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. It is reshuffling the way that the boards are composed. We are in the process right now of searching for new appointments for the Workforce Development Board. It used to be the Workforce Investment Board, and so it is slightly changed. We are also I'm on a committee at the state level to work on the regional workforce development plans for our region, which is the NORTEC region, thank goodness. And we are working on trying to see what we're going to be doing over the course of the next 18 months in implementing that new federal legislation. What complicates things is when the state throws other rules and regulations on top of that. So we're trying to work through that as we speak. And currently for Lassen County, we are working on appointments. Ms. Melody Brawley, we are working on her appointment to sit on there's a required TANF seat. And by the way, I also might want to mention that the board, it is dictated by legislation, the composition of the board. So we are having to follow those parameters. Unlike the way that we used to be able to do it here, they have gotten rid of that three-legged stool as we have known it to be, where we have representation from labor, workforce, and education in the private sector as well. So we are working on that. Ms. Brawley is working on her nomination. I spoke with Mr. Chapman about that a few weeks ago. We're hoping that that can happen and she can be sat for the upcoming meeting, which is January 28th. And I'm currently working on, and I have been since we spoke, a private sector. And I've also reached out. I did some ethics training for the chamber last week, and I'm reaching out, working with Patty, to try to find a private sector representation. The other representation that we're hoping to get from Lassen County is union. We were able to actually work with the prisons in terms of having some sort of labor representation. Right now, all of our labor is centered in the valley, and as I said to Mr. Chapman a few weeks ago, I'd really like to make sure that we get some sort of representation.
Well, up until last fall, Sophia Wages had been kind of the union rep in this part of the state to that, but she retired from the Office of Education in December, and after 40-some years, and she basically is no longer active in that role. So she also, because of family and other needs, has decided not to continue. So she, like Mr. Theobald, had both kind of dropped off of that historic representation.
Yes. So we are working on that. I'm not sure if that labor seat will be sat, because the governing board will make the appointments of who we have ready to go for the 28th. So that's kind of where we're at with our representation here. And as soon as we are able to find a private sector, I'll let you know.
I'm planning on attending that meeting on the 28th. In fact, I'll maybe coordinate with I think Mel will make an excellent connection there. And I think that, regardless of what we do as far as our role with the JPA and being part of the governing process, there is still opportunity. And I just have to say, having worked with Tracy for the last several years, both with Nortec and with Alliance for Workforce Development, we are extremely fortunate and lucky to have her and her organization doing the, basically when boots hit the ground level, because they've done tremendous service for both, not only Lassen, but Modoc, Plymouth, Sierra County. She's taken on even Butte County. When Butte County's program fell apart, Nortec looked around to see who would be best able to put it back together again, and they turned to the best. And that was my only distress, is that just stretches her that much more thin. But she has been able to handle that and maintain the credibility of being a resident here in Lassen, Plymouth County. Nice to have one of our hometown people be at that level. So excellent.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Are there any questions?
Okay, any questions of Tracy by the board?
You did a great job, thank you.
Thank you. I will turn it over to Terry. She's done a great job, and she will let me know of the activities at the One Stop.
She's one of your excellent staff members. So
yes, she
welcome,
is.
Terry. Good to see you in the
Thank
board.
you. Good morning, members of the board. I'm Terry Heiser-Haynes, and I'm Supervisor of Business Services for Alliance for Workforce Development. And you've already met Tracy, so I'm honored today to take an opportunity to update you on the activities of Lassen County's Business and Career Network, your local one-stop employment center. AFWD delivers Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, programs to adults, dislocated workers, and the youth of Lassen County. Through our working partnerships and relationships with Lassen County Health and Human Services, Probation, Office of Education, to name a few, job seekers and community members have a wide array of resources available to them. Lassen County's current unemployment rate is 6.9%, whereas the state of California is at 5.7%. So we continue to see a lot of job seekers coming through the door asking for job search resources, assistance, along with the various assistances available through the One Stop through our partner agencies. From July 1st through December 31st of 2015, 9,960 job-seeking individuals utilized the services at the One Stop. During that same time frame, 81 Lassen County businesses received 412 services of their needs that varied from customized recruitment, job postings, human resource support, business expansion, some retention ideas, and labor market information. So each of those businesses received numerous services and there were a lot of repeat requests. Our rapid response activities had 19 Lassen County residents losing employment from July through December, with 6 businesses closing. Those businesses were all small businesses with 10 and fewer employees. AFWD was we were awarded a national emergency grant that provided public and nonprofit entities with temporary workers to work on drought-related projects. Eligible Lassen County individuals went to work with an opportunity to earn up to $14,000 in a 6-month period of time. Over $57,000 in wages was provided to these individuals. We're working with numerous Lassen County businesses for our on-the-job training program. The trainings are for individuals who do not have all of the necessary skills for the position in which they're hired for. The program provides 50% reimbursement for the employers, back to the employers during the assistance of the training periods, while we're getting them up and running for the newly hired employee. Approximately $45,000 have been provided back for reimbursements to the employees. In conclusion, AFWD's One-Stop Center's purpose for both job seekers and businesses is to create a place where they can succeed with all of their endeavors by using the services available to them. AFWD is pleased to offer WIOA services in Lassen County, and we will continue to provide these valuable services to both job seekers and businesses. We value our partnerships and relationships with other agencies and appreciate your continued support of AFWD Business and Career Network. Thank you for your time, and do we have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Terry. Aaron?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. The first one is, you talked about a total of 9,960 job seekers in Lassen County. That's like a third of the population.
Yes, sir.
Now, does that count in people multiple times?
Yes.
So, like,
Full activity through the.
about how many people would you guess of the 9,000 is that actual individuals? Would you surmise?
Actually, that number is, that is individuals.
Yes.
That's unduplicated counts, and that is all of our partners. We also have Melody's office. We're all co-located, so everyone that comes through that door, they have their workforce plans, their plans that they have to go through for Melody's program. So anyone that walks in that door over that course of that 6-month period, those are unduplicated numbers.
So those are the people who are looking for a job or a better job.
Well, it could be, yeah, a better job. They're coming in because they have to come in as part of their plan. So every time, they come into there's about 2,500 to 3,000 individuals every month that come through. So that's a total 9,960 is over that period of time.
That includes people who are like on some sort of public assistance or receiving some sort of assistance?
Yes, that's correct. So anyone who's receiving cash assistance is required to participate in Welfare to Work programs.
Yeah.
And they have various levels of ability to actually participate in work if it's found for them, but it's a place for them to start. So while Alliance Workforce Development is beginning to put together the pieces for them to actually have a job, and it's our job in Health and Social Services to ensure that they get all those services that make them ready to take advantage of the job opportunity. And ever since PERWARA was passed in 1996 and implemented in California in 1998, and that's the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, our partnership with Alliance Workforce Development and having our staff there has been just like the accomplishment of a personal dream for me, and that is that every client who came in to seek food stamps or cash assistance or Medi-Cal, they were low income, would have the very first thing they see when they walk in would be the job board. Because even if you are getting food stamps or cash assistance, you can still have a part-time job, great place to start. And for some of our clients, part-time is all they can manage for a whole variety of reasons, and being on behalf of Health Board, you understand that. So I think that knowing where you get that job and how easy it is to walk in and see that, I just think that's been one of the best things about having our partnership.
One thing I might encourage the board, especially for our newer members, if you haven't had an opportunity in this past year or two, is to go to the one-stop center, and not just one-stop center for the board, where you walk in and we do have meetings in the community where a lot of groups will use that, but is maybe make arrangements with either mail or with AFWD to actually do a tour through the offices and see, Terry or, anybody can take you through, but go see, we have co-located staff, and I was really impressed, because it used to be, we were scattered all over the place, and as we've got the newer buildings and we get people reorganized and where they're working, the different offices and departments are working in a co-located type fashion, and I think that's where Tracy has been really good at coming to the forefront, working with Mel's department and that whole compound over there, that complex. And I think with the eventual relocation of child support, and when you're able to get the adult services over to that building where they're basically in the same complex, it's just going to enhance the ability of services. But seeing how that all works and going around, I would highly encourage that as something that a board member should maybe pursue. And I know
Yeah,
the staff.
I'm sure any of us would be happy to take you
Yeah.
on a tour and describe the programs and what our
I think when
hopes are for that campus over there.
I think when that campus first started opening up, we did have a kind of an open house, and the board actually went over as a whole and did. But the board's, other than maybe Bob, the board has changed since that time. So it'd be probably something, if you haven't done it, would be well worth it, because it'll give you an appreciation of just the dynamics that they're describing. I've always just kind of like, wow, this is pretty nice. Aaron and then Bob.
Anyway, going back to the 9,960 jobs, I mean, what's the population of Lassen County? It's like 25,000 people without prison, and or 28,000. But it's, so anyway, that's, a little short of half of the population. It's more than a third, but less than half, but yet our unemployment rate is only 6.9%. And see, that's where I have a problem with the numbers and seeing where they're at. So anyway, I don't know if that's something that can be further clarified or justified, at least from my mind.
Yeah, and I can help with the unemployment numbers, because this is one thing that is frustrating for us, what the real unemployment number is. When somebody has actually fallen off unemployment, they've been on unemployment for their 26 weeks, and they are no longer eligible, how that number is derived, they don't take the number of individuals in our county. They look at the working folks and the numbers that the state, through their complicated system, comes up with the numbers that they say equate to the working population. If I've been on unemployment for 26 weeks, I'm no longer included in that number anymore, I drop off. So it's very difficult. I could show you, and I'd be happy to send you or get them on the monthly LMI data distribution, where you can actually see how that number fluctuates. And so you're right, 6.9%. I mean, that's pretty good compared to where we've been over the last few years. But it's kind of tricky when you actually take into account, you can't look at the entire population, because they don't take that into consideration when they're factoring in the unemployment rate.
And then, I guess my last question while I got you guys here, you talked about this national emergency grant with drought-related projects. What jobs were created with this grant for drought-related projects?
Those were drought maintenance workers were the main positions, where they went out onto public lands and projects that were identified, and they did fuel reduction barriers, they did stream flow improvements, they removed slash and things like that to help reduce the possibility of fires or opportunities for fires.
And they did all this on public land?
Yes. Yes.
No private industry?
No private industry.
Unfortunately, this is one of those grants that, and we are not allowed to do it on private land, except for if private, it can be done with a private corporation if they're working for a public benefit. So, or the land, or we can say that that private company was doing vegetation removal, for the public's benefit. So it's a very prescriptive grant from the feds. It's very difficult to run. And so most of it has to be with either nonprofit or public agencies. That's where that work can be done.
Any of this work been done out there on the bike trail with some slash removal or runoff to Wilson?
Which bike trails, the
Ones that are-
River.
Skyway.
Susan
Well,
Village.
the Skyway Trail.
Yeah, they did on like the MODOC line for the bike trails. Biz Johnson Trail was addressed. Some areas there were addressed, and an area up out of Westwood was addressed, but not Ranch Park itself.
Okay. I don't know if that's something you can look with in the future. We
Yeah.
could, get some more of those.
Because that's,
That's a possibility, we should look into it.
Yeah, probably coming down.
Probably. Maybe an extension of the boat ramp at Eagle Lake.
Yeah, then you have to affect it.
yeah.
The extension of the boat ramp is going to take you all the way up to Spalding. Okay.
Those are all the questions I have.
Bob, you had a question?
Yeah, I just have one, you said 10 local businesses have closed down.
6.
Oh, 6.
Mhm.
Okay, that's better than 10.
10
Yes.
employees or less.
10 employees
Oh,
or
10
less.
employees or less, okay, thank you. But is there any kind of a trend, were they all kind of related businesses? Is there maybe the reason there was maybe too many businesses supplying the same product? Is there any reason for that?
A couple of them were actually due to retirement, and they didn't want to, they weren't able to sell their business, so they just closed the doors. And then we have some restaurants that the competition is so high that,
Well,
that they,
restaurant businesses are tough to be in.
Yeah.
business
So
anyway.
Yes.
it wasn't anything really catastrophic, of the economy. It was more too many of this when these people retired.
some,
I
yes.
have one question for you, Tracy, or maybe Terry, is, I know for the NORTEC meetings, we have like the quarterly reports that come in for all the 11 counties and all the
Yes.
service providers and stuff, and that usually gives a kind of synopsis of what's happened in the last 3 months. I mean, the meeting coming up in January, we'll be getting that with this next one. Are copies of that report, are they
Yeah.
distributed to the other board, the supervisors as a whole?
We don't distribute them, but our website, I can tell you, and we have a whole history of the last 50.
Yeah, I realize we can go access through the website, but I was going to encourage you that maybe when you do that, if
Print
you
them
could
and-
print up copies of that, and maybe get it over to Mr.
Sure.
Egan. I mean, we need copies even for him, and so it can be distributed to the board as a whole, put it in the block. And that would be a way, I think, for you guys on a month-to-month basis or quarter-to-quarter basis, appreciate some. I mean, I see those as part of that, being involved with that assignment, but they were dawned on me to think that, is this being distributed to the rest of the board?
Would you like just AFWDs and then maybe provide a link to the other counties, or?
Well, I would say basically AFWD as it relates to Lassen
Sure.
County, and
Sure.
if it includes the other counties in your service component, that's fine too, but and make an idea for what that link is.
Sure.
Because anybody in the public could go to
Absolutely.
and view the site, but you have to be, one, proficient with a computer, and two, take the time to go do that. And to be honest with you, even sitting on the board, I have to, from time to time, remind myself, I need to go do that. But I think having a hard copy of just Lassen County would make it a lot easier for the board to digest and to be familiar with it. I think you find the information pretty interesting, and these kind of questions, you'll have more, but as time you get the answers, you'll have less. And then you'll have kind of live in their world. Okay, do we have any other questions from the board or comments? Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, thank Tracy and Terry for their help. We have, the board approved an increase in our training budget last year so we can send people to the police academy. And Terry's worked real closely with us to help us out. Obviously, those people, when we're sending them to the academy, don't have the necessary training at that point to do the job. So they've been able to really help us offset some of those training costs. We've also worked real closely with her on a number of the correctional officers that we hire, dispatchers, a variety of positions within the sheriff's office. It really helps us offset employment costs for the first few months while they're going through their training program. So it's been a huge benefit to us, and it's a benefit to the employees. Some of the employees, when an officer comes on the job, there's a lot of equipment, uniforms, everything else they have to buy, and for some of them it's a real hardship. So if they qualify, that's another benefit they can get through that
And
partnership.
that will also drive some of those numbers you have coming in the door when you're talking about 9,600 and whatever it is. So.
Yeah, they've been a great partner for us at the sheriff's office, and I just wanted to thank them. So.
Thank you, Sheriff. That's always appreciated. And we do appreciate, Gary, the work you guys do for our county department. So.
Thank you.
Okay, if no other questions from the public, then we will move on with our agenda. We have one item left, I believe, and that's the information item that we and correspondence.
Are there any,
Item I-1 is a letter from Planning and Building Services to the Department of Water Resources. So I don't know if the board has any comments or questions on it. The receive and file item. Okay, do we have any
So we
questions?
did anything on that, Richard, it's just
Receive and
we don't
file.
need to take any action unless we want to make more restrictive or different regulations from the state, so.
I mean, are we able to comply with Memorial or whatever?
We typically don't require irrigation or landscaping make requirements like a lot of jurisdictions do, so it's not very applicable to us.
It's really more urban oriented, like the city has to when they deal with the businesses to do the, do like these new businesses. Yeah, medians and landscaping and stuff. But we don't have that much in the county.
We don't.
Okay. So any questions from the audience? If not, then that item is received and filed. And with that, the business is concluded and we stand adjourned from there. I want to thank the board for the next meeting.
11:17.